This is Radhakrishna, lecturer in computer science, Chalmers Degree College, Palakolu. In the previous sessions, we discussed about some design tools. Those are data flow diagrams, structure charts, and hippodiagrams. There are several design tools. In those only we discussed three tools. So remaining tools, what are the remaining tools we have that we'll discuss in today's session? So this will be the continuation for our previous session. In our previous session, we discussed three tools and remaining tools we'll discuss in this session. In this session, I'm going to explain about decision tables. Decision tables is our today's session. This helps the developer to make different decisions and to perform different actions based on those situations. There will be several conditions in a project. There will be several problems in a project. For example, before discussing about a decision table, I will give you an example. Suppose if you face a problem, if you face any repair in your system, if you are facing a problem with your internet connection, what you have to do? Our system is not providing any internet. You are facing some problems with while browsing your internet. What we'll see? We'll see some verifications. We'll check some verifications. We'll check for the cable connectivity. We'll check for drivers. We'll check for signaling. Like that, we'll perform some actions based on the situation. We'll make some decisions. If like this, we'll try like this. If like this, how to try like this. Like this, to solve a problem, we'll identify different procedures, different solutions, and we'll apply which solution to be used. We'll apply which is the better solution. Similarly, in this session also, our decision table, this represents conditions. A decision table represents conditions and the respective actions. We will have several conditions. So if the condition is like this, what is the action to be performed? That we can decide here. And the action to be taken, and we must address all those actions. That is in a tabular form. So how we can define a decision table in simple terms? A decision table represents conditions and the respective actions to be taken. To address them and in a structural tabular format. In a tabular format, we have to address all the cases and all the actions as a tabular form. It is a very powerful tool that is to debug or that is to prevent errors in our system. It helps to group similar information into a single table and then combining tables is delivery easy and convenient. So different types of actions, different types of information will be grouped here. Several types of information will be grouped here as a table. This will help to make better decisions. So what are it may be? There will be different conditions in a system, and based on the condition, we have to take decision. So what are the conditions we will have, and what are the actions we have to take? All these will be explained with the help of these decision tables. Now let us see what are the importance. What is the importance of decision table? As I said, I have given details in a simple format. This can be used to find out different conditions and actions. This is a simple definition. So, what is the importance of this decision table? Let us see one by one. This is very much useful in testing technique. What is testing technique? After designing a software, it must be verified for correctness. We must test it using different testing tools. So in this, we must find out test cases. For example, in general point of view, I want to give a generalized example. Suppose a company designed a vehicle. Before releasing the vehicle to the market, they will test the vehicle in different conditions. So first they will identify the conditions. They will try on different types of roads. They will try in different types of weather conditions. They will try in different types of speed limits. Like that, they first design some test conditions and they apply all the test conditions on the bike, on the vehicle. If that particular vehicle passed all the test conditions, then only they will release the vehicle to the market. Similarly, for software designing also, we must first find out, we must first test it before releasing it to the customer. So we have to test it with the help of several testing tools. So in these testing tools, we have to find out the test cases. What are the tests to be performed? Like that, we must find out test conditions and test cases. So to find out these test conditions and test cases, so this decision tables are very much useful, very much helpful in designing test technique. That is the first one. And next one is it helps the testers to sense the effect of combinations of different inputs and other software states. It's also another facility. It shows the tester, it gives the tester, if the tester gives some input, what will be the impact on the software? How the data will be changed? If I input these values to the system, then what will be the output? What will be the impact? What state will be changed? From which state the data will change to which state? So it can be identified with the help of this decision table. And this helps the developer to perform the job better because this will give clear understanding about different conditions and the actions to be performed. So this give a better understanding to the client, to the developer. That is another facility it is. And next one is in this requirements can be expressed. Requirements can be identified as per the business rules. So in requirements gathering also we can use these decision tables. Like that we have so many points to make. This is very important. And one more thing is what are the advantages of decision table? Just now, of course, I have given importance. Now I am giving advantages. Here there is a difference between importance and advantage. Why it is necessary, that is important. And what are the advantages that we will see now? In this, any complex business flow, if you are automating, you are developing a project for a business organization, that business organization is having very complex, very critical business flow is there in that. It can be easily converted to test cases and test scenarios using this technique. Of course, when the business transaction or business flow is very simple, we need not go for all these tools. A senior project manager or senior software developer can simply develop a project without using all the tools. But in general, most of the projects will be critical. So we are discussing about only critical organizations. Only organizations those are having critical transactions. If the organization is small, it is a single user organization, then we need not discuss all these software development mechanisms. We're all discussing about multinational companies like that. That's why when the complexity of business of an organization is very critical. In these cases, we can develop test cases very easily, test cases and test scenarios very easily with the help of these decision tables. And next one is these decision tables work iteratively. That's another one. What is meant by iteration? Iteration means repeatedly. Means the output of one table can be used as input as another decision table. Suppose I have taken a decision table at the lowest level. By observing that table, I will get some output. This output can be used as input for another decision table. In that another decision table, again will perform, will analyze. Again, the output of that decision table can be used as input for another decision table. Like that, one output of a decision table can be used as input for another table. Like that, you can go for anywhere. Because this is required when we have to perform the same task continuously until you get your satisfactory results. So you can use the outputs of one decision table as input for another decision table. So that is another mechanism available in this. And next one is it's very simple to understand. You can easily understand, and everyone can use this method to design. All the ordinary persons, all the persons, those who don't have much experience in software development, can also use the decision table to design test cases and scenarios. That is another advantage we have. And one more thing is, it provides complete coverage of test cases. No test case will be neglected in this. You can cover all the test cases, complete coverage of test cases in this, which helps to reduce the rework on writing test scenarios. We need not write again and again. Suppose if you completed all the test cases, you designed all the test cases. After some time, again we identified that some test cases are missed, some test cases are ignored. Again, we have to rework on all these. If you decision table, we need not do all the rework again and again because all the important tests and test cases will be covered in this. So no test case will be left. All the cases will be covered. So we need not rework on the requirement. We need not rework on the test cases again and again. And one more thing is, finally, decision table will give the developer a clear understanding of the actions, a clear understanding of the conditions and its actions to be performed. While developing decision table, what we have to do, what are the steps to keep in mind while developing decision table? Here, some of the conditions the developer must follow. What are the steps or what are the conditions? First one, he must identify possible conditions to be addressed. First one, these are steps while designing while creating decision table. In this first one, identify all the conditions to be addressed. First one. All the conditions must be identified prior. No condition will be left. Next one, determine actions to be performed. That is the second one. What are the actions to be performed? Determine the actions to be performed on the identified conditions. Third one, use maximum rules. We have to use several rules in this. So in this one, use maximum possible rules. This must be used. Next one, fourth one, we have to define action for each rule. These are the points to keep in mind while designing decision tables. Please study these ones. Determine actions to be performed for identified conditions. For the first one is identify all the conditions. This is the first task to be performed. The next one, determine actions to be performed. What are the actions to be performed? For what? For the identified conditions. In the first step, we identified some conditions. If like this, these are the conditions. If like this, like that, we identify some conditions. So, for all the conditions, we have to identify actions to be performed. Next one, use maximum possible rules. We have to use different rules also. So, we have to use maximum possible rules. And finally, define actions for each rule. For each rule, we have to define actions. Please study these points to be keep in mind. Now, let us work with an example to discuss about decision table. An example decision table I will give you. Please study this. These decision tables will be created with the help of a tables. So it must be in a tabular form. Here I am writing. Please study this. These tables will have conditions and will have rules. I will write here 4 rules. I will take rule 1, rule 2, here I am trying to explain a password authentication for a web page. In this, what will be the conditions? We will see. Username will have, this may be true or false. Next one will have password. It's also true or false. Next one, output. So for that I am using ERH. We'll see what are all these. Here, I want to explain a web-based authentication algorithm, authentication situation. For the situation, what to do if the results are different. In this one, the user will enter his username, his password. Then what to do? If the username and password are correct, then only a web page or home page must be displayed. Otherwise, error message must be displayed. Once again, I am repeating the situation. Here, this is to open a web page. The web page will be opened only when the username and password both are correct. If any one is wrong, then an error message must be displayed. So for that, we are writing a decision table. Here, I used some legends. T, this is for true, false, true, false. This is to display E for error and H for home page. So these are the legends. Let us see. The username already entered. Username is false. And he entered the password also wrong. So it's also false. Then what to do? The action to be performed. Simply here I am writing E means display error message. And another case, if you take the username is true, that means he entered the username correct, but he entered the password as false. What to do? Here also both are must be correct. So here also it will display E means error message. And another case we have the username is wrong. Another rule, username is wrong, but the password is correct. It was of no use. Then also it will display error message. And another case we have the username he entered is correct, true, and the password also he entered is correct, true. Then what to do? Home page will be displayed. So please observe this diagram. Here, meaning for the legends are, if it is true, that is correct. If it is false, wrong, wrong information. If it is E, display error. And if it is H, display home page. Please study this decision table. This is a simple one which will give you clear idea what you can do. Here I have taken a very simple example. This is a web page authentication program. So when the user want to open the web page, he must enter username and password. The web page home page, the website home page will be displayed only when both the username and passwords are correct. If anyone in this is wrong, then it will display error message. So those situations, those conditions and its actions we mentioned here, these are the rules in this table. Username is wrong, password also wrong, then error message will be displayed. Username is true, password false. So again error message will be displayed. Username he entered is wrong, password he entered is correct, but it is of no use. Error message will be displayed. When the home page is displayed, when the username and password both are true, then only the home page will be displayed. Like that, based on different conditions, we can define rules, we can define actions with the help of these decision tables. This is another designing tool. Next, another design tool that we have to discuss today is entity relation model, ER model. It's also called as entity, relation, model. What is this entity relation model? Before discussing entities and its relations, first let us see some terms: entities, attributes, and relations. In a system, there will be so many entities, which is called as an entity. If anything is having several descriptions, then that can be called as an entity. Let us take an example. If you treat student, an education institute, in an education institute, in a college, if you take student, student will be entity. Why student is entity? Student is having so many details. He will have name, his father name, surname, phone number, door number, city, address, phone number, email, like that. That student will have so many details. So here student is called as entity. And what are all the remaining details? That means surname, name, father name, address, phone number, door number. These are all called as attributes of that student. So if student is entity and his details will be attributes. For example, if you take surname, that is not entity because surname don't have any other details. So surname is an attribute. Like that, in every system, we'll have so many entities. So we must able to show the relations between these entities because a system consists of so many entities, and the relation between these entities must be established, must be represented graphically. Then only we'll have a clear understanding about what are the entities, what are the attributes of those entities, and what is the relation between those entities in the system. So the relation between these entities can be represented with the help of ER diagrams, entity relation diagrams. In this, we will use some symbols also. So what are the symbols available here and how these will be represented? We'll see. First one, symbols that we use in this ER diagram are, first one is a rectangle, that is to denote entity. In this rectangle, we will denote entities only. For example, student, like that. And student, customer, account number, account, like that. So entity will be denoted with the help of this rectangle. And we have one more, attributes. How attributes are represented? Attributes are represented with the help of these symbols, attributes. And next, relation. How the relation is represented? Relation can be represented with the help of a diamond. In this diamond, how to represent a relation. So these are the symbols that we'll use in ER diagrams. Please study these ones. With the help of these, I will try to explain how the diagram will look like. First one, entity, as I already said, which have several details. Attributes, those details are called as attributes. And relation, it can be represented with the help of diamonds, and these will be connected with the help of lines in the diagram. Now let us draw a diagram. Basic example I will give you a basic model. I have two entities. This is the entity 1 and I have another entity. These are represented in rectangles and attributes of each entity. That means these are represented like this. These are represented in circles and attributes of this entity. And here I am representing relation also. So the relation will be represented with the help of this diamond. Please observe the diagram. Here this shows two entities and these two are the details of this entity. So these two are the attributes. Attributes must be represented in these ovals, in these circles. And another entity, of course, here I used only two attributes for each entity. We may have so many attributes for each entity. The number is not specified, the number is not constant. And here for this entity, I used two attributes. Of course, you may use one more attribute. I want to make it clear. You may use any number of attributes. So one more attribute I used there, that entity contains three attributes. Those details, these three are the details of this entity, and these two are the details of this entity, and this is the relation between these two entities. There will be a relation between entities in every system. Without relation, we cannot use entities in a system. All the entities must be interrelated in the system. Without a relation, it is not a proper maintenance. So this is an example for entity relation model. Let us discuss the same with a generalized example. All of you know about an education system. Let's say our college system. So in this, what will be the entities and what will be the attributes? First, let us take two entities. Here I am taking two entities. One is student. Student is one entity, and another entity I have taken course. These two are entities I am saying. Why these two are entities? If these two are having any attributes, these two are having any descriptions, then we can call these entities, as I said. So what are the descriptions for these two? For example, for student, we'll have student number, name, father name, door number, phone. Like that, we'll have some details, some address. So this is entity and these are attributes. This entity and these are all attributes of the student. And if you see course, what we have? Suppose how you can identify attributes of that particular entity. See, every course will have a course code. Every course will have a subject. For example, if you take BSc, you will have maths, physics, computers, or maths, physics, chemistry, like that. You will have subjects. So, course can have a course code. It will have subjects. It will have a number of intake approved, like that. So, For course, I'm taking course code, course name, subjects, and intake, like that. For example, if you take course code C001 and course name MPCS, subjects, maths, physics, computer science, and intake 60. Like that, this course will have some attributes. So it is represented as entity, and these are attributes. What is the relation between the student and course in that institution? What will be the relation between student and course in the institute? It's a very simple question. A student will enroll for the course. Every student, a student will enroll for a course. It can be represented with the help of ER diagram like this. Please observe. I am trying to convert these details to graphical format. First one, we have student, that is entity. So, let's write like this. Student will have attributes. S number is one attribute, and name as another attribute, father name another attribute, door number, and phone. You have to represent all the attributes like this. Address. So here I represented student like this. Student entity and its attributes. And another one is we have course. This is entity. So keep it in rectangle and write its attributes. Course code, that is one attribute. Course name, another attribute. Subjects and intake, subjects, another attribute, and intake. How many students can be enrolled into course? Approved. So like that, these two entities are represented here. Now, we must able to explain what is the relation between these two entities with the help of this ER diagram. The relation between these two is student enrolls. So it must be, this is the relation. So it must be represented in diamond. Student is the entity. Student enrolls for course. If you observe this diagram, simply you will know what are the entities in this system, what are their attributes, and this is an entity, these attributes, and this is the relation. A student can enroll into course. Like that, with the help of these different types of symbols, we can explain our proposed system, and we can explain the entities, attributes, and relations of a proposed system graphically, which gives a clear understanding to the developer. If you write all the details like this will create a little bit of confusion to the developer. You please observe. The same is translated, the same details are translated as pictorial form. If you represent details like this, of course, it's also necessary. But using only these details will create a little bit of confusion to the developer. So these details, these textual format details, these details written in textual format must be converted to graphical format. Then this graphic will give clear understanding to the developer. what are the components, what are the entities. This is the entity, these are attributes, and this is the relation between these two entities. This is actually a simple example, but if you take a large system that contains so many entities, for example, if you take a bank, it contains customer as an entity, account is an entity. Like that, you have so many entities. Every entity will have so many attributes. Here I used only maximum 5 to 6 entities, but there will be hundreds of entities sometimes. So, to make it clear, these must be represented as ER diagram. And in this ER diagrams, we have to specify, we can specify cardinality also. What is cardinality? While relating these items, while relating these entities, we must represent how many events of one attribute are related to another attribute, another event of another entity. From here, for example, simply I will give cardinality. There are different types of cardinalities. Cardinality means how many events of one entity are related to how many events of another entity. For example, if you take in this, one student can enroll into one course only in that college. So here the cardinality is, here it is 1 and here also it is 1. This is 1-to-1 cardinality between student and course. Please observe carefully. What is cardinality? One student can enroll, that means a student can enroll into BSc or BCom or BA like that, or BBA. Like that, a student can enroll into only one course. That means from student side, only one event will be taken, and from course side, only one event will be taken. Suppose in course side, we will have BSc, BCom, BA, BBA. And in this side, we will have a student. A student can have one course. A student can enroll into only one course. Like that, you can say, one student can enroll into one course. Here the cardinality is 1-to-1. Similarly, if you take, what will be the cardinality between course and student? If you see, in a course, many students can be enrolled. If you take a particular course, then many students can enroll into a particular course. Then the cardinality is many to 1. Like that, we have so many cardinalities. For example, if you take customer and account number, one customer will have one account number. So that is the cardinality. For example, if you take a purchase system, one customer can purchase many items. See, if you take customer and items, here this is education system, college system. I discussed. Here I am discussing a supermarket or some other system. In this, customer is one entity because customer will have customer number, customer name, address, phone number, like that. And for item also another entity because item also will have item number, item name, like that. Item cost, date of manufacturing, like that. So what will be the cardinality between these two? A customer can purchase many items. So the relation between this customer and item is purchase. He will purchase. And what is the cardinality? One customer will purchase many items. Like that, cardinality will also be discussed. So this cardinality we have, first one is 1-to-1. This can be defined as 1-to-1 cardinality. You can define it like this. And 1-to-many. And you can reverse it, many to 1. and many letters, many to many. Like that, in this ER diagram, we can explain, we can show the cardinality also. So this is another very important design tool. This will give you graphical representation of entities, attributes, and their relations.